Korean Mafia boss warned Lena Arins not to tempt him, then after he broke his own rule. Lena Arins hadn't even planned to step foot inside the Blue Serpent Lounge. Her entire trip to Seoul was supposed to be simple. 3 months of photography assignments, a little sightseeing, and then return to Nigeria with enough savings to kickstart her own studio. But when her colleague Yoonji pleaded with her to just come for one drink, Lena gave in, mostly because she didn't want to spend another lonely Friday night editing photos in her small apartment. The moment she walked through the entrance, she knew she'd made a mistake. The lounge wasn't like the other places Yoonji had taken her. This one felt different. Too dark. Too quiet. Too many men in tailored suits standing still like statues, their eyes scanning every corner as if the shadows owed them obedience. Even the music was low, just a soft pulse echoing under the murmurs of people who looked far too dangerous to be in a place with velvet seats. Yoonji was already tipsy, giggling as she dragged Lena toward the bar. Lena tried to relax, but her instincts were shouting warnings she couldn't explain. She felt eyes on her. A slow, heavy, deliberate stare that pressed against her spine with the weight of a command. When she turned, she froze. A man stood on the balcony above, looking down at her like she'd interrupted a private ritual. Tall, sharp jawline. Dark suit tailored to perfection. Black hair pulled back. A scar slicing across his jaw like a story he never told. Yoon Sora. She recognized him instantly, from Seoul Street rumors, whispered stories, and headlines no one dared print fully. Leader of the White Serpents. The most feared mafia boss in the city. People said he never smiled. Never warned. Never forgave. And he was staring at her. Not at Yoonji. Not at the crowd. At her. Like he'd been waiting for her to walk in. He descended the stairs with silent steps, but the room reacted. Conversations halted. Bodyguards stiffened. Yoonji, suddenly sobering, grabbed Lena's wrist. Lena, she whispered, panic in her voice, we need to go. Now. Why? Because that's Yoon Sora. And he doesn't look at people. Ever. Before they could leave, he reached them. He didn't speak right away. He studied Lena the way a general studies a threat. Measured, focused, unreadable. You shouldn't be here, he said finally. His voice was low. Smooth. Dangerous. Lena swallowed. I didn't know this place was restricted. It is. His eyes didn't leave her face. For people like you. She didn't know whether he meant foreigners, women, or people who didn't belong in the underworld. Before she could ask, he stepped closer, invading her personal space without touching her. But she felt the heat of him. Felt the energy shift. Felt something like gravity pulling her in. Leave the lounge, he said quietly. Immediately. Yoonji didn't hesitate, she tugged Lena toward the exit. But Sora spoke again and Lena stopped. Just one thing, he murmured. The air tightened. Lena glanced back. His gaze locked onto hers, burning with something unreadable, warning and longing mixed like forbidden fire. Do not tempt me, Lena Arins, he said. Her breath caught. He knew her name. She'd never met him. You do not want my attention. Lena didn't speak. She couldn't. Sora's jaw tightened like he was fighting himself. I don't break my own rules, he finished, voice dropping even lower. But his eyes, dark, heated, conflicted, said something else entirely. That he already had. That he wanted her more than he should. And that this, whatever dangerous thread had tied them the moment she walked in, was only the beginning. Lena woke up the next morning trying to convince herself that last night had been a dream. That she hadn't locked eyes with a mafia boss. That he hadn't said her name like it belonged on his tongue. That he hadn't warned her like she was some kind of forbidden temptation. But when she opened her laptop and saw the photos she'd taken at the lounge, her stomach flipped. There he was. Yoon Sora, caught in a single, unguarded moment. Not the cold, emotionless boss people whispered about. Not the man carved out of stone and darkness. In that photo he looked human. Tired. Alone. Almost vulnerable. A side of him she doubted anyone was allowed to capture. She stared too long, fingers hovering over the delete button. I should delete it, she muttered to herself. But something stopped her. Curiosity. Confusion. Or maybe that strange pull she'd felt the moment he first looked at her. She closed the laptop. I'll decide later. Lena spent the rest of the morning at her photography studio, a tiny room tucked above a flower shop, walls covered in prints from the streets of Seoul. Old men playing chess. Children running through markets. Elderly women laughing together. Strangers with stories etched on their faces. Photography was how she understood the world. How she breathed. She was so focused editing shots that she didn't hear the footsteps behind her. Not until a voice, low and unmistakably familiar, cut through the silence. You still haven't deleted it. Lena froze. Her heart stopped, then started again too fast. She turned slowly. Yoon Sora stood inside her studio. No guards. No entourage. Just him. Tall. Immaculate. Lethal and beautiful at once. He held a printed photograph, her printed photograph, in his gloved hand. She hadn't printed that one. Her laptop was password protected. Her doors were locked. How did you? You shouldn't ask questions you don't want answered, he said quietly, stepping deeper into the studio. He placed the photo on her desk with delicate precision, as if it were something fragile. Or dangerous. Lena swallowed. She tried to stand tall. It was an accident, she said. I didn't even realize I captured you. Sora's eyes remained fixed on her face, not the photo. Accidents, he murmured, can get people killed in my world. A shiver ran down her spine. She inhaled slowly. I'll delete it. I know you will. His tone softened just a fraction. But that is not why I'm here. She blinked. Then why? He didn't answer immediately. Instead, he walked around her studio. Slowly. Silently. Studying her work with a strange, unreadable expression. Lena watched him, unsettled by how comfortable he looked in her space. Almost like he'd been there before, like he belonged there. He stopped at a portrait of a Korean grandmother laughing on a park bench. You see people, he said softly. You see what they hide. His gaze drifted across the walls, to every emotion she'd captured with her lens. Then he turned back to her. You see me too clearly, Lena Arins? The way he said her name sent a tremor down her spine. Lena forced herself to breathe. I just took a picture. That's all. No, Sora said, voice dropping. You captured something I do not allow anyone to see. Their eyes held. Warning. Curiosity. Fear. And beneath it all, something like forbidden gravity. He stepped closer. So close she could smell his cologne. Cool, dark, expensive. So close she could feel the energy rolling off him. He reached past her, his hand brushing the back of her wrist for just a second, and picked up the camera resting on her desk. An electric jolt shot through her arm at the brief contact. He paused. His eyes flicked to her wrist, then to her face. That one accidental touch had changed the air. Thickened it. Charged it. He seemed to feel it too, because he stepped back abruptly like he needed distance to breathe. That, he said, voice strained in a way she hadn't heard before, cannot happen again. Lena stared. What? He put the camera down slowly. Me being close to you. His gaze lingered on her lips for half a heartbeat before he dragged it away. It is unsafe. For me, she asked quietly. For both of us. There was a truth in his voice that chilled her. And yet, you came here, she whispered. No guards. No explanation. Sora's jaw tightened. For a moment he looked like a man at war with himself. I came, he said slowly, because I needed to see if the photo was a threat. But Lena saw the flicker in his eyes. That wasn't the whole truth. He had come because something about her unsettled him, pulled him, broke through rules he'd lived by his entire life. He stepped toward the door, back rigid, voice tightly controlled. Delete the original file. Destroy the print. Then he paused at the doorway. But if another photo of me ever appears in your hands. He looked back at her, gaze dark and unreadable. Tell me first. Only me. Why? Lena breathed before she could stop herself. His voice softened, dangerously, unexpectedly. Because I don't know what others would do with it. His gaze softened too, just for an instant. And because I don't want anyone else looking at me through your eyes. Her heartbeat stumbled. Before she could respond, he stepped outside. But right before he left, he said the words that would haunt her for days. This was a mistake, Lena. His eyes traveled over her face one last time. And yet, I came anyway. Then he disappeared into the hallway. Leaving Lena alone with her camera, her heartbeat, and a photograph of a man she knew she should never want. But already did. Lena tried to convince herself that Yun Sora was out of her life for good. After he left her studio with that haunted look in his eyes, she told herself it was over. She would delete the photo. She would forget his voice. She would forget the way her wrist still tingled from that accidental touch. But for the next 3 days she saw him everywhere. Not literally, but in the way shadows moved behind her. In the way strangers glanced at her camera bag. In the way cars slowed whenever she crossed the street. She told herself she was imagining things. That she was being paranoid because she'd crossed paths with someone dangerous. But danger had a way of finding people who weren't looking. The night it began. It was past 10 p.m. when Lena left her studio. The flower shop downstairs had closed hours ago, and the narrow street outside was almost deserted, lit only by the occasional flicker of the street lamps. She pulled her coat tighter around her. Even in early spring, Seoul nights could be bitter. Her footsteps echoed against the pavement. Left foot, right foot, steady, predictable. But then, another set of footsteps echoed too. Not steady. Not predictable. Slower. Following. Matching her pace whenever she quickened. Her heartbeat picked up instantly. She glanced behind her. Two men. Tall. Dark jackets. Hats pulled low. Their eyes locked on her like she was a target. Lena swallowed hard and forced herself to walk faster. Her studio alley led into a broader street filled with nightlife and taxis up ahead. If she could just reach the main road, she'd be safe. But the footsteps behind her grew quicker. One of the men called out, "Mississippi, stop." His voice wasn't friendly. Lena didn't stop. She started running. But they were faster. Before she could scream, one man grabbed her arm and pulled her into a narrow side alley. Her back hit the wall and her breath lodged in her throat. "Where is the photo?" the man hissed, his breath warm and sour against her face. "What photo?" Lena choked out. "The one you took of the boss." His grip tightened. "Don't lie." Panic surged through her. They knew. They knew about Sora. About her. About the picture. "I deleted it," she said, voice trembling. "It was an accident." The second man stepped forward, glancing around like he expected someone to appear at any moment. "She's lying," he muttered. "People don't delete things that easily." "We should take her," the first man growled, grabbing a fistful of her coat. "Make her talk." But suddenly the night split open. A loud, violent sound shattered the stillness. A car slammed to a stop at the mouth of the alley. Jet black. Engine roaring. Headlights blazing like twin daggers. Both men froze. The passenger door flew open. And Lena felt her lungs collapse. Sora stepped out. No guards. No hesitation. Just fury. Lethal, cold, unmasked fury. He didn't shout. He didn't run. He didn't brandish a weapon. He didn't have to. Men like him carried violence in their shadows. He approached slowly, each step echoing with a promise of something deadly. The two men backed away, their bravado crumbling instantly. "Asaurus, one stuttered, bowing deeply. "We didn't know." "If you had known," Sora said quietly, "you would already be dead." His voice was colder than winter rain. He reached Lena in 3 strides. His hand wrapped around her forearm, not rough but firm enough to ground her. "Did they hurt you?" he asked. Not to the men. To her. His attention was entirely on Lena, his eyes scanning her from head to toe with such intensity it made her chest tighten. "And no," Lena whispered. Sora exhaled, a slow, shaky breath that betrayed far more emotion than his face did. Then he turned toward the two men. "You touched her." Both men immediately dropped to their knees, shaking. Sora's sigh, "We didn't know she was mine." Sora's voice sliced through the air. Lena stiffened. His expression shifted, only slightly, but it was enough to show the flicker of regret. He hadn't meant to say that. Not out loud. But it didn't matter. The two men bowed lower, foreheads nearly touching the ground. "Forgive us." "No," Sora said calmly. "I don't forgive mistakes." A shadow moved behind him, a man Lena hadn't noticed until now, stepping out from the driver's seat. One of Sora's lieutenants. Sora didn't need to give orders. He only said, "Remove them." That was all. The lieutenant nodded and dragged the two men away as they begged for mercy. Lena looked away, horror twisting her stomach. Sora stepped closer and blocked her view with his body, shielding her from the scene. "You shouldn't see that," he murmured. "I didn't want any of this," Lena whispered, voice trembling. He lifted her chin gently with his gloved fingers, forcing her eyes up to his. "I know." His thumb brushed her jaw, slow and careful. Too intimate. Too deliberate. Too revealing. Sora's voice dropped to something raw. "I told you not to tempt me, Lena. But I didn't. And here I am," he cut in, the control in his tone cracking. "Breaking my rules again." For a moment they just stood there in the narrow alley. Her shaking. Him trying not to touch her more. Both of them pulled by an invisible force neither understood. Finally Sora spoke again, steady but urgent. "You're coming with me. I can go home." "No," he said firmly. "You're not safe anymore." She hesitated. "Because of you?" He met her eyes. "No," he said. "Because of what you accidentally saw." He stepped closer, his shadow enveloping hers, his presence overwhelming and strangely comforting. "I will protect you," he said quietly. "Even if I shouldn't." Lena's heart hammered. She knew nothing about this man. Nothing except the danger clinging to him like a second skin. But when he held out his hand for her, she took it. And that was the moment her life changed forever. Lena didn't remember falling asleep. All she remembered was Sora bringing her to a sleek, hidden apartment at the edge of the Han River, a place that somehow felt both like a sanctuary and a cage. He told her it was one of his safe houses. She didn't ask what he used it for before her arrival. She didn't want to know. The moment they walked in, the heavy door locked behind them with a click that echoed too loudly in her chest. For the first time, Lena realized Sora wasn't simply protecting her. He was isolating her. The safe house. The apartment was quiet. Too quiet. Warm lights glowed from the ceiling, but everything else felt cold. Black marble, sleek leather, dark wood. A minimalist masterpiece. No family photos. No personal belongings. Not even a misplaced pair of shoes. It was the home of a man who did not expect to live long. Or who never planned to let anyone close enough to notice. Sora guided her to the living room with a silent gesture. "Sit," he said softly. She did. He stood across from her, hands clasped behind his back, posture rigid, as if he feared relaxing for even a second. "You're safe here," he said. "But you cannot leave tonight." Lena's breath hitched. "Are you keeping me here?" He flinched, barely, but she saw it. "Only until I know who came after you," he replied. "Then you'll be free." "Free," she repeated, tasting the word like something fragile. He nodded once. "You have my word." Strangely, she trusted his word more than she trusted the lock on the door. Morning light. Lena woke up on the guest bed the next morning, wrapped in a soft gray blanket that smelled faintly of cedar and something else, Sora's cologne. Had he carried her there? She didn't remember lying down. A small tray rested on the nightstand, fruit slices, ginger tea, and a neatly folded note. She reached for it, uncertain. "You barely touched dinner." His handwriting was sharp, precise, controlled, just like him. She almost smiled. Almost. Then she heard footsteps outside the door. Sora unmasked. When she opened the guest room door, she saw Sora sitting in the apartment's inner courtyard. A courtyard inside a penthouse. A small square of open sky framed by glass walls. White stone flooring. A single cherry blossom tree in a large ceramic pot, its delicate petals falling onto the ground like soft confetti. He sat on a bench beside it, hands resting loosely on his knees, head tilted back. The early light washed over him, softening the hard lines of his face. He looked peaceful. Human. Not like the man who had threatened two armed attackers in an alleyway less than a day ago. Lena stood there longer than she intended, watching him. Studying him. Trying to understand this stranger who felt both dangerous and strangely familiar. He sensed her before she stepped closer. Without opening his eyes, he spoke. "You're awake." She blinked. "How did you know it was me?" "I know your footsteps," he answered calmly. Her heart skipped a beat. He opened his eyes then, not cold, not guarded, but tired. And something else she couldn't name. "Join me," he said softly. She hesitated, then sat beside him. The silence between them wasn't uncomfortable. It felt natural. Like this moment had existed long before they met. After a while she said, "I didn't know you liked gardens." "I don't," he replied. "But she did." "Who?" "My mother." His voice was steady, but his eyes were far away. "She planted the tree before she died. I keep it alive because—" His jaw clenched. "It's one of the last things left of who I was before all this." Lena turned to him, surprised he was offering pieces of himself so easily. "You weren't always a Mafia boss," she said quietly. "No. What happened?" He was silent for several seconds, long enough for Lena to regret asking. But then Sora spoke, each word measured. "My father was the boss. Everyone assumed my older brother would inherit the throne." He paused. "But then my father died. And my brother disappeared. The organization was collapsing. Someone had to take control before it destroyed itself." "So you stepped in," Lena whispered. "I didn't step in." He looked at her then, eyes steady. "I was forced in." Her breath caught. "You didn't choose this life?" "No," he said. "But once you sit on the throne, you don't get up alive." Lena felt something ache in her chest. This man, wrapped in power and darkness, had never been allowed to be anything else. No wonder he had rules. No wonder he had walls. No wonder her presence rattled him. He turned his head toward her again. "You're the first person," he murmured, "to talk to me like I'm not just the title." Her throat tightened. "Sora." He held her gaze. And for a moment she saw the man beneath the armor. Vulnerable. Lonely. Starved for something real. Then he looked away, shutting the door to his vulnerability as quickly as he'd opened it. "You should stay inside today," he said, returning to his usual composed tone. "It's safer." "Will you be here?" Lena asked before thinking. He paused. "Yes," he answered. But the hesitation in his voice betrayed the truth. He didn't want to leave her alone. He didn't want to leave her, period. Nightfall. True to his word, Sora stayed. Not close. Not intrusive. But always in the background. Reading in the living room. Watching the river from the balcony. Taking quiet phone calls in a language Lena didn't understand. But each time she walked by, his eyes followed her. Not with suspicion, but something else. Something unspoken, unallowed, undeniable. That night, Lena stepped into the hallway and found him standing outside her door. Not facing it, guarding it, as if expecting someone, or something, to come for her. "Sora," she whispered. He didn't turn, but his shoulder tensed. "I'm making sure you're safe," he said. "You don't have to stand here all night." "I do," he said simply. This was a truth, not an excuse, not a performance. The truth. Lena walked closer, heart pounding. "Sora." He finally looked at her, his expression conflicted. He stepped back just enough to keep distance between them, a distance he was clearly fighting against. "You shouldn't be here," he whispered. "You keep saying that," she murmured. "And I mean it every time." "Then why don't you send me away?" His eyes darkened. "Because I can't." The air tightened between them. Heavy. Electrified. Lena felt it. Sora felt it. The whole room felt it. But before anything more could happen, he straightened. "This is as close as I should get," he said quietly. Then, so softly she almost didn't hear. "And yet, I want to be closer." The tension broke only when he stepped back, forcing the space between them again. "Sleep," he said. "I'll be right here." Lena closed her door slowly. Her heart stayed with the man standing on the other side. The rain came down in thin silver lines, whispering against the windows of the safe house as if the night itself was warning them. Lena stood near the door, arms crossed, her jaw tight. She had spent the last hour arguing with Jaehyun, but he remained unmoved, still calm, still unreadable, still the maddening storm behind those dark eyes. "You're not leaving this house tonight," he said again, voice lower this time. "You don't control me," Lena shot back. "I'm not your soldier and I'm not part of your gang." His lips twitched in irritation, not anger, not quite, but that dangerous blend of restraint and frustration he only ever showed with her. "Lena," he looked away, exhaling. "Someone leaked our location. There's a bounty on anyone associated with me. If you walk out that door, I can take care of myself." Jaehyun stepped closer, not touching her, but close enough that she felt the warmth of his body, the tension in his breath. "You think I'm trying to trap you," he said quietly. "But I'm trying to protect you." "And what about me?" she whispered. "Who protects me from you?" That one hit him. His eyes flickered, wounded for a second before the cold mask slid back on. He reached for her, then stopped himself halfway, fingers curling back into a fist. "I told you not to tempt me," he murmured. "And you keep doing it." Lena swallowed, her heartbeat stumbling. "I'm not tempting you. I'm just being myself." "That's the problem," he said. "You're making me break my own rules." Before she could respond, the house went dark. Every light, every hum, every warm glow, gone. Lena froze. "Jaehyun." He moved before she finished the sentence. One hand shoved her behind him. The other pulled a gun from his waistband with silent precision. His posture shifted, cold, lethal, alert. "Stay close," he murmured. Her breath trembled. Outside, the wind carried something sharp, boots on gravel? Or her imagination? A click echoed through the hallway. Then another. Someone was in the house. Jaehyun grabbed Lena's wrist and pulled her into the kitchen, silent and swift. Lena's heart beat so fast she thought it might burst. He opened a drawer, revealing a hidden panel in the cabinet. Inside, a narrow passage. He pushed her toward it. "Get in." "No, no, I'm not leaving you." "Lena." His voice, usually so controlled, slipped. A raw crack in the armor. "If something happens to you, I won't survive it." He rarely spoke with emotion. Never begged. This time he was begging. She stared at him, chest tight. "You're not dying tonight. You hear me?" Footsteps grew louder, 2 men, maybe 3. They moved with a predator's confidence. Jaehyun cupped her cheek with his free hand, his thumb brushing her skin, his breath warm with urgency. "I swore I wouldn't touch you," he whispered. "I swore I wouldn't drag you deeper into my world." Thunder rumbled above. "But I'm breaking my rules tonight." Then he kissed her. Not gently. Not hesitantly. But with the desperation of a man who thought this might be the last moment he'd ever have. Lena's fingers tangled in his shirt, pulling him closer, surrendering to the heat she had been denying. He kissed her like she was the only person left in the world, like protecting her was the last purpose he had. A loud crash snapped them apart. Jaehyun pressed his forehead to hers for one last breath. "When I say run, you run." Before she could protest, he stepped out of the passageway and silently closed it behind her. Lena's breath froze in her lungs. Gunshots exploded, hard, sharp, too close. She covered her mouth, shaking. More shots. A body hit the floor. Then, silence. Lena pushed the door open, ignoring the terror clawing at her chest. Jaehyun? Jaehyun. She found him in the living room, breathing hard, gun lowered, 3 men down around him. His shirt was torn, his cheek bleeding from a cut, but he was alive. Their eyes met. Lena ran to him. He caught her against his chest, buried his face in her hair and whispered, "Now you see why I warned you." His arms tightened around her. "And now you see why I can't stay away." The night was far from over. After the gunmen were taken away by Jaehyun's men, the safe house grew painfully quiet, too quiet. The silence didn't soothe Lena. If anything, it made her more aware of the storm still raging inside her. She stood by the window, arms tightly folded. The rain had slowed to a drizzle, streaking soft lines across the glass. But she barely noticed it. She could still feel Jaehyun's kiss. Still feel the desperation in the way he'd grabbed her. Still hear the echo of his voice saying he couldn't stay away. Her chest tightened. He was across the room, cleaning his weapons with methodical precision. But he kept glancing at her, quick, sharp looks that he immediately tried to hide. He wasn't as composed as he pretended to be. Lena exhaled slowly. "Are you going to ignore what happened?" He paused barely, but she saw it. His hand stilled for a fraction of a second before he resumed wiping the gun. "It was a moment," he said. "A mistake." Lena turned to him, eyebrow raised. "Is that what you really think?" He didn't answer. He didn't have to. That moment had nearly devoured both of them. She walked toward him, each step measured, steady. Jaehyun stiffened, eyes lifting to meet hers. Lena stopped just a breath away from him. "You kissed me because you thought you might die," she whispered. "No," he said quietly. "I kissed you because I haven't stopped wanting to since the first day I met you." Her heart slammed against her ribs. He cursed under his breath, looking away. "But you shouldn't be near me. You saw what happened today. You saw what I am. And I'm still here. You shouldn't be. But I am." Their breaths tangled. Jaehyun closed his eyes, fingers curling into fists on the table. "Lena, I warned you. I told you not to tempt me. And you broke your own rule." She leaned closer. "So who are you really trying to protect? Me or yourself?" His eyes snapped open. He looked undone. Like a man who had been holding everything together with thin threads that finally snapped. "You don't understand," he murmured. "You're not like the others. You're not someone I can use, push away, or forget. His voice strained. "You're the one thing I can't afford to want." Lena felt her throat tighten. "And yet you do." He flinched, as if her words were too close to the truth he refused to face. She reached up and touched the cut on his cheek gently. He inhaled sharply, not from pain but from the shock of her tenderness. "Lena," his voice was barely a breath. "Don't." "Why?" she whispered. "Why can't I touch you?" "Because I won't stop." His gaze fixed on her lips. "Not this time." Lena's breath hitched. "Then don't." Something in his expression cracked. He stepped back. The distance between them returned like a cold slap. Jaehyun turned away, bracing both hands on the table, head bowed like he was fighting himself. "You don't know what you're doing," he said. "Getting close to me will ruin your life. And staying away is ruining yours," she shot back. He looked up at her, eyes dark and raw. "You deserve peace," he said. "You deserve a future that doesn't include bullets and blood. And maybe," she said softly, "I deserve the truth. Not your walls. Not your excuses." Silence. Heavy. Unbreathable. He exhaled, voice low. "The truth is, you terrify me." Lena blinked. "I terrify you?" "Yes." He lifted his gaze. "Because you make me want a life I can't have." The word struck her like a physical blow, sad and beautiful at the same time. She moved closer, standing beside him. "Then why not try?" Jaehyun straightened, his jaw tight. "Because I don't get to try. Men like me don't get second chances." "But men like you can choose," she said. "You're choosing fear." He opened his mouth, then closed it again, defeated. For once, Jaehyun had no answer. Lena reached for his hand, slow and gentle. He hesitated, and then let her hold it. His fingers trembled in hers. A Mafia king trembling. For her. Thunder rolled faintly in the distance, echoing the unspoken tension between them. At last he whispered, "I don't know how to be good." Lena stepped closer, pressing her forehead to his. "Then be honest." His breath shuddered. She lifted his hand to her chest, over her heartbeat. "Be this. Whatever this is. But don't lie to me. Don't push me away because you think that protects me." Jaehyun swallowed hard. Then, almost unwillingly, he slid his other hand around her waist and pulled her close, slowly as if giving himself permission. Their bodies touched. Their breaths mingled. His voice was a confession against her lips. "I don't want to protect myself from you anymore. Lena's heart fluttered. But before the moment could deepen, a phone buzzed sharply on the table. Jae-hyun stiffened instantly. Duty. Danger. Reality reclaimed him. He picked up the phone, jaw tightening as he listened. Then he ended the call and turned to her, eyes dark and hard again, but colder this time. Lena, pack your things. Her stomach tightened. Why? They found another leak. His voice was grave. And this time, it's someone close to me. A chill swept over her. Someone close to him? Someone inside his circle? Jae-hyun grabbed his weapons, straightened his coat and stepped toward the door. We leave in 10 minutes. He met her eyes. And whatever happens next, changes everything. The ride back to Jae-hyun's primary estate was suffocatingly quiet. Rain smeared across the car windows as they sped through the city, neon lights smearing into streaks of pink and blue. Lena sat beside Jae-hyun in the back seat, her fingers twisting nervously in her lap. He hadn't spoken since the phone call. His posture was rigid, his jaw clenched so tight she could see the muscle ticking. Even his breathing seemed measured, controlled, too controlled. Jae-hyun, she finally whispered. He didn't look at her. We'll talk when we're somewhere safe. She hated that answer. It felt like a wall slamming back up between them after everything they'd shared. After the kiss. After the confession. After he'd held her like she was the only steady thing in his world. Now he was retreating again. The car turned sharply and entered the long driveway of the estate. The mansion rose like a shadow against the storm-dimmed sky, grand, cold, and heavily guarded. Guards lined the entrance, tense and alert. Inside, the atmosphere was thick with fear. Men whispered urgently. Security cameras were offline in some parts of the property. Someone inside the organization had betrayed the Mafia boss. Lena followed him to his office. The door slammed behind them, making her flinch. He didn't notice, he was already pacing. Jae-hyun, she tried again, softer this time. What's going on? He stopped pacing. Slowly he turned toward her, and for the first time that night she saw it. The exhaustion. The fear. The anger simmering beneath his calm surface. There's a traitor, he said. Someone close. Someone who knows my movements. My safe houses. My people. How close? She asked quietly. His eyes locked on hers. Close enough to know I put you under my protection. Her breath caught. You think they're targeting me? I know they are. Lena's chest tightened painfully. Why me? Jae-hyun stepped nearer, his voice a low storm. Because they saw what I couldn't hide anymore. Her pulse quickened. And what's that? He swallowed. You matter to me. The room fell silent. Lena exhaled shakily. Then stopped pushing me away. He stepped even closer, his fingers brushing her arm, light, hesitant, like he was afraid she'd pull back. I don't want to hurt you, he murmured. But everyone I care about becomes a target. And yet, she whispered, you still chose to pull me into your world. He closed his eyes. When he opened them, raw honesty flickered inside. I didn't pull you in, he said. You walked in, and I didn't have the strength to push you out. Before she could respond, someone knocked urgently on the door. Boss, it's urgent. Jae-hyun's expression darkened instantly. Enter. His right-hand man Min-jae slipped in, soaked from the rain. He bowed quickly, then lifted his gaze. We found something, Min-jae said. The traitor, it's someone you trusted. Deeply. A muscle in Jae-hyun's jaw twitched. Who? Min-jae hesitated. Lena's stomach twisted. Who? Jae-hyun repeated, voice icy. Min-jae finally spoke. It's Eun-woo. Silence. Cold. Shattering. Lena didn't know who that was, but from the look on Jae-hyun's face she understood. This wasn't just any betrayal. This was family. Jae-hyun whispered the name like it hurt. Eun-woo? Min-jae nodded grimly. We intercepted messages. He was paid to leak your movements. And tonight, he planned to hand Lena over to the Kim cartel. Lena's heart lurched. The Kim cartel was known for one thing, brutality. Jae-hyun's entire body stiffened, rage building in his eyes, cold, lethal, controlled rage. The kind that made even Min-jae step back a little. He dared to use her to hurt me? Jae-hyun whispered. Then he turned toward Lena. And she had never seen that expression on him before. Fury, fear, possessiveness, and something deeper, too vulnerable for a Mafia king to admit. He cupped her face suddenly, both hands holding her like he needed proof she was still standing there, breathing, alive. Lena, he said, voice hoarse, if they had taken you? They didn't, she whispered, placing her hands over his. His jaw clenched. They almost did. He swallowed hard. And that's on me. I should have kept you farther from all of this. She shook her head. You should have trusted me to stand beside you. He blinked, like the idea had never truly occurred to him. Outside the office, shouting erupted in the hallway. Min-jae grabbed his gun. Boss, we found him. Lena's heart leapt into her throat. Jaehyun's grip tightened protectively around her. Stay behind me, he ordered. But Lena stepped in front of him instead. No. He froze. Lena. I'm not hiding. Not running. Not being protected from the truth. If someone close to you betrayed you, then I want to hear it. I want to see who he is with my own eyes. Jaehyun stared at her. And slowly, something in him broke. Or healed. He nodded once. A storm brewing behind his eyes. Then stay close, he said. Because tonight, everything changes. He opened the office door. The confrontation with the traitor was waiting. And so was the truth about how far Jaehyun would go for the woman who had dismantled every rule he'd ever made. The hallway outside Jaehyun's office shook with noise, boots slamming, men shouting, the electric tension of a building ready to explode. Jaehyun pushed open the door, Lena right behind him, refusing to be left in the shadows. Min-jae moved beside them, gun out, face grim. They descended the staircase toward the grand atrium where guards circled around a figure kneeling at the center. Hands tied behind his back, head lowered. Unwoo. Lena had expected someone older, someone hardened. But Unwoo was young, maybe mid-20s, with soft features, trembling shoulders, and eyes full of fear. Lena knew instantly why it hurt Jaehyun this much. This wasn't some random soldier. This was someone Jaehyun trusted. Someone he might have raised. Someone he never imagined would betray him. When Unwoo looked up and saw Jaehyun approaching, he burst into tears. Hyung, he sobbed. I'm sorry, I didn't mean. Don't call me that. Jaehyun's voice was a blade, sharp, cold, trembling with tightly controlled rage. Lena felt the anger radiating off him. Felt the heartbreak beneath it. Felt the protective instinct he was fighting to keep from spiraling into something darker. Unwoo choked. I didn't want to hurt you. They forced me, they said they'd kill my mother, they said. And you thought selling me out would save her? Jaehyun hissed. That giving them Lena was the solution? Lena's breath hitched. Unwoo's eyes flicked toward her, guilty, terrified. I never meant for them to actually get her, he cried. I thought it would scare you. Make you step down. They said they only wanted leverage. Leverage, Jaehyun repeated, voice deadly quiet. You offered them her as leverage. Unwoo sobbed harder. I didn't know you cared about her so much. The entire room froze. Lena's eyes widened. Jaehyun's entire body reacted. The slight falter in his breath, the clench in his jaw, the way his eyes flickered toward her for the briefest second before he forced them back to Unwoo. That is irrelevant, Jaehyun snapped. But it wasn't. Everyone felt the lie. Especially Lena. Min-jae approached cautiously. Boss. Let us handle him. You're too close to this. Jaehyun didn't answer right away. His eyes were locked on Unwoo, on the fear, the betrayal, the tragedy of it all. Jaehyun, Lena whispered, stepping closer. Look at me. He turned. And she saw everything he was trying to hide. Fear. Pain. Love he refused to name. And the war between duty and emotion tearing him apart. You don't have to do this, she murmured. He swallowed. Art. He betrayed everything I built. And hurting him won't fix that. Lena touched his hand gently. You're not a monster, Jaehyun. His breath trembled. You think I am, he said, voice raw. I never said that. You should. His eyes darkened. Because I'm not like you. You still see the world with hope. I see it with blood. Lena lifted his hand to her chest again, over her heart, just like she did. Then let me be your balance, she whispered. Not your weakness. He stared at her like she was the only anchor he had left. Slowly, he lowered the gun. His men exhaled. Unwoo collapsed into sobs of relief. But Jaehyun wasn't done. He pointed at Min-jae. Lock him in the lower bunker. No one touches him until I decide what to do. His tone was steel but not cruelty. A choice. Mercy. Lena felt her heart swell. Min-jae dragged Unwoo away. The room emptied, guards dispersing. But Jaehyun remained frozen, staring at nothing. Lena stepped closer. You made the right decision. I don't know what I'm doing anymore, he murmured. Everything I built is falling apart. And all I can think about is... He stopped. Lena held his gaze. Is what? He turned to her fully, the restraint finally snapping. You, he breathed. All I can think about is you. Before she could speak, he pulled her into his arms, slowly, almost hesitantly, like he was asking for permission. Lena wrapped her arms around him, fitting perfectly against his chest. I warned you, he whispered into her hair. I warned you not to tempt me. And yet, she murmured, you're the one holding me. He closed his eyes. I'm done pretending, he said. Done fighting this. He lifted her chin gently. And if the world wants a war for it, they can come. Lena's heart thudded. Jaehyun, she whispered. He leaned in, slow, deliberate, and kissed her. Not with desperation this time. Not like a man who thought he was losing her. But like a man claiming the truth he denied for far too long. The kiss was deep, warm, breathtaking. An admission, a surrender, a promise. When they finally parted, breathless, he pressed his forehead to hers. From now on, he said, I protect you not because you're fragile. He traced her cheek. But because you matter. Lena smiled softly. And I protect you because you're human. He let out